Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the show. So, this morning we're going to go through and do all of the things we need to do. Going to get started. Another short show today. Sorry, we're kind of having a few back-to-back short shows, but we're still trying to get my kid sort of balanced into the system for school. So, there's a little bit of having to make sure he's in all of his classes and everything is working properly. So until we kind of get straightened out here, I'm going to have a couple of really short shows while we get this squared away. But for all of you people who are joining me to draw with me, let's go on ahead and start doing the things we need to do every day to be a drawing personable person. So go head over to the desk and let's talk a little bit about what we're doing today. Alright. Oh my goodness. Beautiful snowy day. Kind of weird, but hey, it works. So we're going to do like we did before. This is yesterday's. Hey, yesterday's page survived. The kitten attack. Let's go on ahead and put in a couple of short lines. One other thing that I was noticing, by the way, if you take, when you're drawing these short lines and the long lines that we're doing for this practice, when you put the ruler down and you put your hand on the ruler to do this, I actually am trying to also still lift my elbow. Just get into the practice of lifting my elbow forward. Right? So, I'm going to put in a couple of long lines here. I like the ability to put in this very, very long line like this, the entire length of the page. There we go. And then we'll put in a couple of circles, half circles, so that we can do this. Again, I'm doing this from my elbow. I love just civil metric guides, and I live for goofy, weird stuff. And you know what else I'm going to do? I'm going to put in these circles. Circles are really, really hard, strangely enough. I'll put one down here too. Let's make sure we've got a few circles. And put them in different locations on here. Right? All right. Boy, does this look like a rough piece of paper to practice on today, doesn't it? So there we go. Pretty rough piece of paper. Again, I'm just going to use a fine-tipped, waterproof fine liner. Take the cap off, line the paper up, make sure my elbow is loose. I don't want the elbow down. I don't want the wrist down. You can take, for just a second, put your pinky down to guide it in, and then we're going to lift up. Six, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wow, that looks like hair almost. It's so out of order there. 1, 2, 3, Loosen the elbow, loosen the shoulder. Wow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I know this isn't glamorous. 1, and it really isn't. 2, 3. But if you're following from home, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is really good for you. Right? Oh my goodness. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And this is one of those things, right? You know, people think that art is all about drawing cars or pretty girls or something like that. But the truth is, in order to become a good artist, you've got to do all of the boring stuff. I mean, there's always going to be boring stuff. I hope you can even hear me since I didn't bother to bring the microphone over here. Let me bring the microphone over here where it's probably easier to hear me. So, there we go. I'm actually going to rig up another microphone over here is what I think I'm going to do, because I've got 2 ports into my gear over here. And so if I put another mic over here, I'd be able to just have a mic here and a mic there, and all would be good. Anyway, so the thought here is that we've got all of this basic concept, the basic concepts, and we'll go through them a little more as time goes on. We're only going to have to be able to do a few. As soon as I lift my wrist up, I'm noticing I lose control over here. But this is like martial arts. Anybody who's taken martial arts of any sort knows that as a white belt, you spend a good portion of your time just punching the air. Right? You're not doing anything else. Two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now let's see how this works. Not good. Okay. There we go. So, that's a fascinating thing. I'm also noticing that I don't have an awful lot of viewership right now, which is fine. That's fine. We're only doing 15-minute shows this week while I set up the remainder of this setup here, this rig. I'm also looking to see if my camera's straight. I feel like it's not. You know what I mean? I feel like we've got sort of so this is an L square right here. Right? We'll put the L square right here. Right? Look at that. There we go. But that's interesting. It doesn't look straight to this, right? And I think part of it might be angle on the camera. Like, is our camera tilted like this? Bedrock is sort of different. But I think it should be truer to this side right here. That's much more important, I think. There we go. It should be more like truer to the L square here, right? But when I put this right here, it's actually not that far off, is it? Right? That's not bad. That's not bad at all. So, an L square, guys. L square. Like the letter L. Tell your friends. Alright, so I have a cool little bracket right over here, which holds all of my random things. Maintaining your office area is critical. You always want to maintain that. Do all of the maintenance things that we need to do every morning. Make sure that everything is clean. And make sure that everything has all of this stuff squared away. Like, where's your microphone, guy? These things are important to ask. So I'm once again clearing my monitor. These XP Pen monitors, like all monitors that you ever get, are flat surface monitors. So there we go. There we go. All right, perfect. Okay. That's an interesting setup we've done here, and we've done all of the work that we can get. Clearing out the monitor is clean, my work area is clean. This is the time when, if you have two styluses, like I do, you put one of them on the charger and let them start charging. I put that guy under here, under the monitor, so he's not in the way. But I put him on the charge. Second pin sits in its little cap. I've got a little holder here, which holds your pin and sits right by the computer. It's one of those ongoing jokes about us digital artists is, don't put your stylus too close to a real pen, because you never know what you'll grab and start writing. This doesn't work, there's no ink. So, and the worst thing to think about would be to take the pen and start writing on your monitor, right? Yeah. So you do want to be very, very careful. I like to make my styluses always very dark and black, and then all of my pens are all colorful and bright, and that makes it so that I don't accidentally grab the wrong thing. So, okay, another 15-minute show today, and I know, Brent, you're out there wondering why I keep doing 15-minute shows, but we're just doing 15-minute shows this week while I try to get everything squared away. I'm still working on my new office setup and rig, and I need to get my kid squared away. He's not quite there yet. He's almost there, but he's not quite there yet. So give me a couple more days to just get everything organized, and we'll be back to full swing here shortly. But for right now, we're also going to be doing a little bit more of this morning practice warm-up thing. Kind of like the idea of it being like a martial art. It is. It's very much like a martial art. Art is very much like a martial art. So we'll do the first hour. I'm thinking of structuring the show to be more like the first hour. Join me while we do some more warm-ups and martial arts and warm-up and then technique and things like that, like a dojo. I think it's kind of fun, actually. So I'm going to go on ahead and head out pretty soon here, but Brent's here, so I feel kind of bad like leaving when Brent shows up. How you doing, man? It's been a long time. So as I was saying earlier, this week my kid's still having a little bit of a problem with the remote schooling, so I'm going to be doing some short shows this week, but just this week. We'll be back to normal. We'll be back to normal. We may actually be back to normal by the end of the week, but I need to. He's managing to bomb out on his classes, so I'm getting kind of a little worried about this, and I want to get him squared away. And the office here is sort of still kind of coming together. It's not quite together. So before I go though, Brent, I was just talking about this. I started doing the thing where I'm doing the drawing practices every morning. I'm doing it because it's good for me. I guess that's kind of an obvious, but the question I've got is, would you be okay seeing as how that you're not like joining as an artist to join artist things? You're just watching the show because you're enjoying the show. Would you think that it would still be interesting if it had like a 30-minute warm-up every day where we warmed up the pins, warmed up everything like that, then went into the show? Unless you're actively joining me on that. I've been kind of thinking about doing this more like an exercise show in that instance, Okay, everybody, let's get together and start doing the warm-ups for today, that kind of thing. And then I know at least one or two people watch my show to draw. They sit down and they draw with me. But as someone who's not joining, do you think that would work? Do you think that'd be okay for the people who aren't joining me to draw? What do you think? I know you do actually join me to do artwork stuff too, but kind of having you extrapolate to other people. So mostly because I feel like this is sort of a community thing and we can kind of do community decisions, but that's a thing. So what's your thought on that one, my friend? I'm also pitifully low on coffee. Just saying. Cool. So you'd think that that'd be okay. Like the first 30 minutes always is a warm up. I have been feeling like doing warm ups. First of all, I have always said art is not a talent; it's a skill, and it's no different than any other skill. Art or talent is storytelling. That's also somewhat of a skill, but being able to craft stories, I feel like, is a talent. But being able to draw, anybody can do that. That's not to diminish what I'm doing. I've spent years getting to my point where I can draw. So it's just something to think about. I feel like anybody could draw, and I love the idea of people learning to draw. I have a number of friends who, they've got kids or whatever now, and the kids are starting to get into drawing. So I was thinking it'd be kind of cool to say, art isn't all fun and games. It's like you can't become a black belt in martial arts by just walking into a dojo. You've got to spend quality time being a white belt. You've got to spend quality time being a green belt. Quality time as a brown belt and stuff like that. So something to think about. Even once you're in black belt, you're only at first degree. You've still got 9 more degrees to go. So it's something to think about. I don't know. I'm kind of contemplating it. I hope work is treating you well, man. I know you're in the new job, and I know you're still kind of in this loop here. We'll get back to normal pretty soon here. Don't worry about it, because I know you're kind of taking a lunch break to join me here, and I appreciate that. I really do. I'm sorry to bomb out on you, but I've got a timing thing here where I'm right in between 2 classes with my kid, so I just want to make sure he makes that transition. So we'll start tomorrow. Gotcha. It's a good thing. I hope. I mean, getting the work done, stuff like that. I am concerned, though, once you moved to nights, about, whether that's going to become, this will be in the middle of the, well, I'm glad you're listening, but I am worried once you go to nights, this will be in the middle of your nighttime. So, I'm kind of worried about that. Anyway, okay, well, I've got about 4 more minutes or so. Not enough time to start a new project, but enough time to discuss kind of the theory of where we're going on this one. I know that at some point in time we're going to have to start drawing boxes. That's going to be unpleasant. But it's good to be warming up the arm, getting your arm and elbow into the practice of doing the lines and running the lines like you're supposed to run them, and curves and circles. And I'm going to probably bring in a French curve here. I have a number of interesting little French curves, and I'll put them right over here. And French curves are great because you don't have just a crescent that you're working on. You're working on a curve that needs to be dealt with. So I really enjoy French curves. They're a lot of wild and woolly artwork. Very, very guerrilla artwork when you start getting into French curves. But I hope everybody had a great Star Trek day yesterday, by the way. I watched all the interviews that they had on StarTrek.com and was very entertained and gotcha. So you'll already be up and moving to okay, good. Well, then I won't worry about you. I mean, I'll worry about you, but I won't worry about you in any grand scheme thing. Anyway, cool. Well, that's nice. I hope you watched Star Trek Day yesterday, Brent. I know you're more of a Star Wars guy, and I know that your day is more May 4, but September 8 will kind of be still cool. There's always that. So, September 8th is, for those of you who are not in the know, September 8th, 1966 was when Star Trek began. And that was the first episode. It aired on that day. And so we sort of all call that Star Trek Day so that we can all kind of celebrate Star Trek. And yesterday, StarTrek.com did an entire day of Star Trek days, or day things, where they interviewed many of the cast from all the different shows, and it was really fun. And I really enjoyed it, so. But that's okay. I'm a Trekkie. That's my thing. You don't have to be that way. Side note, keeping you up to date on things, worked a lot last night on Bellatrix Rising. Started putting together the individual scripts, so that's a big plus moving along. So I usually write at night from 10 o'clock to midnight, and I actually wrote until about 1:30 or 2 last night because actually my Alexa had to turn off all the lights and tell me to go to bed. So, but I was working pretty good on it, and I got caught up on Star Trek Day. But I was kind of I was kind of motivated a little bit by what I was hearing about Mike McMahon, who's the showrunner for Lower Decks, and how the big thing that he had worked real hard with Lower Decks was to make sure that all of the characters were friends. And you could clearly see the dynamic between all the characters. And so I went on ahead and made sure that I had all of my friendships squared away with all the characters, the relationships between each other. For those of you who aren't familiar with my writing style, I tend to use random tables so that all the characters, just as a starting point, and then I make sure it's organic. But I've randomly rolled up my characters, their race, their gender, things like that, so that I don't have to. I don't get my biases involved. And I'm not just talking about, racial bias or anything like that. I'm talking about I have a bias toward a certain kind of character with a certain kind of personality. And what happens is I end up with about 5 people who are within about this range of personalities. And I like to randomly generate characters because that gets me to the full spectrum. I have my introverts and I have my extroverts, and I have, people who have lots of quirks and people who have only a handful of quirks. People who are really restrictive about their dietary things or things like that. Gives them more depth. It brings more into the character and allows me to kind of kick my own biases to the curb. I'll naturally write the same kind of character. And that's okay. I mean, it's fine, but it bothers me. I'm not doing this for anybody else. I'm just doing this for me because it does kind of bug me when I get stuck. Gosh, this character is the same character that I wrote last time. And one of the things that I feel like Tamerlane did really well was that I had randomly rolled up those characters. So, in that sense, they were very diverse. They had these really wild personalities. But then I don't know if they necessarily worked well together until I started hammering together what they did to each other. What is Angie Bennett versus Julie Cochran? What's their interaction point? Where do they meet? And so, do they play tennis together? I mean, what do they do? All of my friends that I'm with all the time, we all have something that we all do. I mean, all of us play role-playing games, obviously, or board games, or video games. But it occurs to me that I play board games, video games, role-playing games. And it all depends on what my friends are. But I've got a bunch of friends that don't game at all. And those guys I go to coffee with, or we sit and draw together, or, you know what I mean? Like, I'm noticing that I have interfaces with friends that are intersections where we connect in a certain point. And I think that that's a good thing to put into your character building when you're building your character and your world building, because you want to know that you can rely on that. If the two characters play tennis together and you need a scene of exposition where we all talk about, I don't know, the weather tomorrow, which is important to the story, but golly, having two characters stand there and go, how do you think the weather will be tomorrow? The other character says, it'll be snowy. The other character, I think it'll be terribly snowy. You need to have that in there because we need to know the snow is coming for the story. But if they're playing tennis, then you can add the, haha, I have beaten you. What do you think the weather is going to be like tomorrow? Aha, I've beaten you again, and I think it's going to snow. It snowed like 4 times. Is it going to snow again? And that helps a whole lot. So, it gives what the industry calls business, but it gives logical business. I wouldn't hang out with my buddy Alex, who is a video gamer. He is a hardcore video gamer. Many of you might know him from NDK. But he and I, we probably really wouldn't sit and draw together. He doesn't draw. So that seemed really weird for us to go to coffee and sit and draw together. Then again, I've got my buddy Brian, whom you guys have seen on the show, and he and I would draw together. And we probably would role play together, like do role playing games, because he does minis. But I'm not sure we'd video game together. I mean, we may not have the same taste in video games. So I've never asked him. So it's a thing. It's kind of like, the more I think about this, the more I think about, I need to have a random roll table for interactions. What do you guys do together? And it's a little harder when you're dealing with a workplace, right? In the case of Bellatrix Rising, they're all on board the same ship. That's a workplace. So how many romances would show up there? Not that many. How many interactions between characters would you have? A lot. But not everybody on the ship is your buddy, So, it's something to think about. Cochrane used to have the command staff make dinner together. That was their thing. Somebody was on dinner duty, and it was one of those, whenever it was X character's time to do it, everybody freaked out because X character sucked at cooking, and whenever it was Y character, everybody was happy because Y was really good at cooking, yada yada yada. So Rain Prince, like, I'm in for all. But you could join me for drawing. Just, you don't have to draw, And really, honestly, I just like sitting with my art friends. They've got work to do. I've got work to do. It makes me kind of feel like I'm in a workplace. I mean, it's not complicated. Artists, it's hard to be an extroverted artist. Because artists, by nature, is solitary. Which is why I'm glad you join me every day, Brent. I mean, nothing else. You're my co-worker here. You and Donald and Luna, all of you guys pop in from time to time. Allie, if she ever manages to make it back here, I hope she does. But Allie is another, all of you guys just kind of make this feel a little bit more like I got work to do and I got a job to do, and this is my workplace, and I like that, because we don't get workplaces. That's not our nature. So there's that. So, okay, I've gone about 5 minutes over. What's wrong with perspective of street scenes? Perspective's hard for me. That's why I use 3D programs. Because perspective is difficult. It's not impossible, of course, but it's difficult, and so I end up fighting it all the time. So I think it'd be great to see you just sit there and draw street scenes. That's awesome. That's a great thing. And actually, perspective is usually very hard for artists to bamboozle. So, okie dokie. I'm going to get going because I am going to have to go check in on my kid and make sure he's doing what he's supposed to be doing. We'll get this all squared away, but tomorrow morning we're going to start with warm-ups. Yeah, that's beautiful. Like I said, a lot of artists have problems with doing perspective. So the fact that you can, it's a great skill. Nothing wrong with that at all. Okay, I'm out of here. I'll see you tomorrow at 10 o'clock Mountain Time. Thank you so much for joining me, Brent. I appreciate it. And we'll get to work tomorrow, and hopefully this transition time between these two classes isn't going to be too difficult for my kid, and he'll figure it out. But for right now, we're just going to do that real quick and we'll get back onto it. So until tomorrow, you can keep your eyes on the stars and I'll be back. See you later.